Good day, everyone! Today, we'll be discussing what our action should be in case of disasters such as fires and earthquakes. This presentation was prepared by the College of Engineering's Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Committee. First, let's define what a disaster is. A disaster is a serious disruption of the functioning of a community or a society. This involves widespread human, material, economic, or environmental losses and impacts. These impacts exceed the ability of the affected community or society to cope using its own resources. Examples of disasters are earthquakes, floods, and fires. We know that the Philippines is prone to disasters, so we have to be prepared. Let's define disaster risks. According to RA number 10121, or the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act of 2010, disaster risks are the potential disaster losses in lives, health status, livelihood, assets and services, which could occur to a particular community or a society over some specified future time period. Risk reduction is the concept and practice of reducing disaster risks through systematic efforts to analyze and manage the causal factors of disasters. The objectives of risk reduction are to reduce the exposure of people to hazards, lessen the vulnerability of people and property, manage land and environment properly, and improve preparedness in case of disasters. The overall objective of disaster risk reduction and management is to lessen the adverse impacts of hazards and the possibility of disaster. Last 2013, the college formed the Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Committee to formulate policies for the college. One of the critical tasks for disaster risk reduction is emergency management, which is the organization and management of resources and responsibilities for addressing all aspects of emergencies, in particular, preparedness, response, and initial recovery steps. Today, we will discuss our responsibilities, especially if the disaster happens when you're in the College of Engineering. The first disaster we'll discuss is fire. Quick story. Last 2010, the chemistry building and part of the Quezon Hall caught fire. More recent incidents were the Faculty Center, Shopping Center, and Kasao Food Center. There is a risk of fire in almost all buildings, so we have to be aware of what causes it. There are three main ingredients for fire: oxygen, heat, and fuel, which is shown in this fire triangle. Take one of these out and you can prevent fire. The common method of taking away the ingredients of fire is the fire extinguisher. However, fire extinguishers are specific to the class of fire they can put out. Let's look at the classes of fire. The Fire Code of the Philippines classifies the basic fires accordingly. Class A for ordinary combustibles, Class B for flammable liquids and gases, Class C for electrical equipment, Class D for combustible metals and alloys, and Class K for cooking media. The college provides fire extinguishers in every area. Most common fire extinguishers are for Class A, B, and C fires. The next step is knowing how to extinguish fires. There are 5 steps for extinguishing fires. The first one is to determine the type of extinguisher to be used for the fire. Steps 2 to 5 can be memorized using the mnemonic PASS. Pull locking pin, aim at base of fire, squeeze and hold the discharge lever, sweep from side to side. Warning: use the fire extinguisher so you can get out of the burning area. Do not stay to put out the fire if you are not trained for it. The college has trained personnel to handle the fire extinguishers in case of fire. In case of fire, the only goal is to get out of the building quickly. Once you hear an alarm, immediately take action. If you are in a room filled with smoke, crawl low. Cover your mouth and nose with a moist or wet cloth to avoid suffocation. Do not pause to collect all of your things before evacuating. Follow the signages and instructions of your marshals. Have the fire safety officer sound the alarm and call the fire department for help. If you are stuck in a room with a hot or warm doorknob, do not open. The fire is hungry for oxygen, so do not feed it by opening the door. Instead, find an alternate exit route. You may need to break windows for this. If you are still in the building and your only route is blocked, find a fire extinguisher and operate if you have been trained. Elevators should never be used in case of fire. head for the nearest exit stairs. The other disaster that we will prepare for are earthquakes. The Philippines is prone to earthquakes because of our location in the Ring of Fire. Let's discuss what to do before an earthquake. 1. No earthquake hazards in your area. There is a hazard for the University of the Philippines, Diliman, since we are close to the West Marikina Valley Fault. 2. Follow structural design and engineering practices when constructing a house or building. 3. Evaluate the structural soundness of buildings and important infrastructure. 4. Strengthen or retrofit if necessary. If you notice any structural issues in our building, do not hesitate to inform our faculty members and staff. 5. Strap or bolt heavy furniture or cabinets to walls. 6. Check stability of hanging objects like ceiling fans and chandeliers. 7. Store properly harmful chemicals and flammable materials in the lowermost shelves. The college checks these items so that we are safe during earthquakes. If there are any risks that you identify in the college, inform your faculty or staff ASAP. The previous items must be addressed by the department and its staff. However, we would appreciate if you would bring to our attention safety issues we may have missed. Here is what you should be doing before an earthquake. 1. Familiarize yourself with exit routes, especially if it is your first time in that area. Floor plans are strategically located within the building. 2. Know where the first aid kits, fire extinguishers, alarms, and communication devices are located. And lastly, conduct and participate in regular earthquake drills. What are the things that we should do during an earthquake? The first question to ask yourself is, are you inside a structurally sound building? If yes, we should do the following. Stay inside, protect yourself from falling debris, use your arms to protect your head, and stay away from glass windows, shelves, cabinets, and other heavy objects. However, if you are not in a structurally sound building, you should 1. Move to an open area. 2. If driving, do not attempt to cross bridges or overpasses which may have been damaged. 3. Move away from steep slopes that may be affected by landslides. 4. If you're near the shore, move to higher grounds. Also, stay away from the following: trees, power lines, posts, walls, glass panes, and other structures that may fall or collapse. In case of an earthquake drill, the alarm will be sounded to signify the occurrence of an earthquake. At this period, you should duck, cover, and hold as you would during an actual earthquake. Once the alarm ends, you may start falling in line and heading to the nearest exit. Do not run. Look for the signage to the emergency muster area and follow the instructions of the marshals. Even if it is hot outside, do not move into the shade under the trees. You wouldn't want to be standing there when the aftershocks come. After the earthquake, if you are in a weak building, take the fastest and safest way out. Get out calmly in an orderly manner and use the stairs. Do not use elevators, enter damaged buildings, rush to the exit, or panic. After an earthquake, the first thing that you should do is to check yourself for injuries before checking others for their injuries. Also, check water and electrical lines for damages. Check for fire and have it controlled. Do not forget to check for a head count in which everyone must be accounted for. Clean up chemical spills to avoid any chain of unwanted events. Gather information and disaster prevention instructions from battery-operated radios. And lastly, obey public safety precautions. If you need to evacuate
So
the
what if
area
you
you are
need to
in,
evacuate
do
your
the
current
following.
location?
1. Leave a
Two
message
things you
stating
have
where
to
you are
consider
going for the
is
rescuers
a
to take
written
note of.
message that will be
And
left in the
2.
location
Take
for
with you a
rescuers to take
72-hour
note of,
survival kit that has been
and
prepared
a survival
beforehand.
kit.
As you can see in the
Ideally,
figure, these are
the
a list of the
survival kit
things that are
must be
important to
prepared
bring.
beforehand,
But most
especially
importantly,
in
you should have
households,
food and
to
water.
contain materials that you will need for.
As mentioned previously, the College of Engineering has a Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Committee. Several members of the DMMME faculty are part of this committee. The department has prepared the floor plans for the evacuation routes of the DMMME building. The following illustrations are just examples. Remember to bring whatever is already on you. Do not start collecting your things as you must focus on the emergency at hand. Remember to fall in line to exit so as not to cause injuries. Walk briskly but do not run. Also be mindful of hazards, especially when construction and repair activities are ongoing. This is for the lower ground floor which houses the pilot plant. 2 exit routes have been identified which both lead to the upper ground floor. For the upper ground floor, both exit routes lead to the same level, which lead to the parking area. All other floors must pass through the upper ground floor to lead to the muster area. For the upper ground floor, both exit routes lead to the same level, which lead to the parking area. All other floors must pass through. Shown in this figure are the 3 exit points for the second floor. Shown here for the third floor are the 2 exit points that lead to the second floor and finally to the upper ground floor. Shown here for the third floor are the 2 exit points that lead to the second floor. Once you have exited the DMMME building, please look for the signs towards the emergency muster area, so all evacuees may be accounted for. Our main muster area is located at the road below the parking area in front of the building lobby. At the muster area, make sure to fall in line as instructed by marshals to facilitate accurate head counting. Wait for clearance before dispersing. Since the majority of you are not trained to handle disasters, it is best to inform the emergency team about what you find after a disaster. Of course, we do not want disasters to happen, but they are a universal truth and it is better to be prepared than to deal with the consequences of being unprepared. Organize, be prepared. Thank you very much for your time.